when you see someone living abroad or even like having visited abroad like a tourist, you're like, this is the life I want. This is the life I want. As much as people move abroad and they go about their lives, and people back home expect that they're gonna live there, sometimes it's just not for everyone. Hey friends, welcome to my channel. So glad to have you back. I was literally counting. If you hear some noise, just know I'm competing with some outside noise. Just ignore it. Anyway, I just realized the other day, actually today, I was counting and I realized it's been 4 months of me shooting and you guys giving me support, and I do not take it for granted. So thank you so much for clicking on this video. Thank you so much for watching the other videos. If you have not watched the other videos, please just go to my whole channel and just watch the videos from the very first one until this one. And then also subscribe, because like I always say, we are growing our community. If you're new here, my name is Lisa and I am so glad to have you here with me today. That's my little happy dance. Anyway, so I have been talking to a few people about the whole living abroad thing and the whole Maisha Majuu thing, and how there's so much that goes into it that I don't think people really like touch on, and people see per se, not even touch on. And yeah, that is the basis of today's title. Let me tell you, when you see someone living abroad or even like having visited abroad like a tourist, you're like, this is the life I want. This is the life I want. Or if you go somewhere as a tourist, and you see like how clean it is, how developed they are, how deliveries are done, and you're like, this is the life I want. This is it. There's nothing like this. Here? Let me tell you, reality only hits when you actually move to that country and realize that everything you saw, yes, is true, but then there's so much that goes into all of that. And some of the things that go into that are like how many jobs you have to work to survive, how much you will miss your friends and family who are back home, how expensive it is as an international student, because I feel like I would be a millionaire now. But anyway, these are just some of the small things like you don't really know until you actually experience it as someone who's living in that country. And I feel like this is something that's not, obviously you can't see through social media, you can't see, it's someone's own experience, so to speak. And I've been seeing like TikToks of people saying, or people telling others like, don't come because this is the hassle I have to do. It is not all good and sweet and all that. And other people are like, you're lying to us. Stop telling us not to come. But to be honest, I would not tell anybody not to come, but I would love for people to have like a bigger picture other than what is seen on social media or what is seen on through photos, because there's only so much you can tell through a photo, but there's so much that someone experiences or someone that lives abroad gets to experience that is not showcased. So with that, myth number 1 for me would be that living abroad is considered glamorous and exciting. Yeah. That I think is a myth. Yeah. The other thing that I would consider a myth is that living abroad is only for the wealthy. There's this whole thing about how expensive it is to live, how living conditions, the economy, because everyone is complaining about the economy, everyone is complaining about how expensive it is. But let me tell you, I am not wealthy, but I am here. Or maybe I am, but I am here. And in as much as, yes, it could be expensive, like especially moving, because let me tell you, when I first contacted my agent and they were telling me all these huge figures, I was like, where are we going to get all this money? And part of the process, of course, involves a lot of trusting in God, a lot of hoping and having faith that everything will work out the way it is supposed to be. But let me tell you, it is all a myth. Like, there are certain things that you can do to make your journey or your process a little bit bearable and more affordable. Like, even living here, there's so many opportunities when it comes to jobs that get you the money that you need to survive. There are so many experiences that come with, of course, living abroad, and some things you may do and people back home will be like, that's expensive. But then it all comes because you're able to at least afford this. And let me tell you, it is affordable. It is expensive for some. It is a little unbearable for others, but it is not for the wealthy. Literally anyone can live abroad. Now, one that many people, I think, get scared of is them every time they think that language fluency is a must. This is, I think, a myth something that I would say is a myth. And basically this is because, as someone who, of course, needed to do like the IELTS English test, and practically everyone I've met here has had to do a form of English test, especially if they're moving either for work, if they're moving as a student and stuff like that. And in as much as it is something that is scary because you're given like a score you have to achieve, it doesn't mean that you have to be like fluent. All you need to do, to be honest, is just practice before the test. Make sure you know how to answer the questions, and yeah, you should be good. Like, I have met people and I would not necessarily, even them themselves, like they don't call themselves like fluent in English per se, but then they're here. So that means like you don't have to be fluent. If you're going to maybe China, I do not think like you have to be fluent in Chinese to be there. But obviously you have to know how to like communicate, because how are you going to talk to Chinese who do not understand your language? So yeah, so it's not like you have to be fluent, but you have to know the skill. So that's what I would say. Something that I actually thought was true is that people abroad live a life of constant adventure and vacations. Well, I am here. But life is an adventure, so maybe. But yeah, that is something I thought was true until I came here and discovered like it's a whole myth. Because hey, people are working so many jobs, people are trying to study, people are trying to have a work-life balance, and hey, until you're here, that's when you realize like there's people who have never ever gone on vacation because they need the money to survive. They need the money to relax. They need the money for this and that. And yeah, it's just a reality that you actually come to terms with, and you're like, hey, was I living a lie? You know, the way you can just decide, I feel like going to Mombasa. It's not for everyone here. Let me just tell you that. Another thing that I consider to be a myth is the whole like living abroad means leaving your friends and family forever. Like, yes, of course, there's the distance because they're in your home country and you're in a different country, and obviously you have left them, but that doesn't mean like that you've left them forever. With technology, with WhatsApp, with video calls, with FaceTime, with all these things, there are various ways that you can communicate. There are various ways you can keep in touch. And then the good thing is, even when you move to the country, like you can still make friends with people from your home country. Because obviously there's people who have moved before you, there's people who have formed connections before you, who are from your home country, and they will be obviously able to like guide you through the whole like settling down and just being able to like talk to your friends and family as well. So Yeah. Now, the last one, and the one that people constantly ask me about now that I am almost done with my 2 years of postgraduate, is living abroad is a permanent decision. I think this is just a myth, to be honest. So many people think that once you move, there's no way you can go back home. And I remember even before I moved, like some people were like, hey, we have never heard of people moving back home. But let me tell you, I know people who have moved back home after studying, even before they finished. And yeah, it just made me realize like living abroad is not necessarily like a permanent decision. Like you're not just moving and then living there and then deciding like this is where I'm gonna stay. Like there's so many opportunities around the world. Like you're not just limited to where you are. And this is what actually makes me realize that as much as people move abroad and they go about their lives, and people back home expect that they're gonna live there, sometimes it's just not for everyone. Sometimes the opportunities back home are better and stuff like that. And this is something that people actually have to consider and think about even once obviously what they came for is done. So yeah, it's just different for everyone, I would say. Well, I would love to hear some of the things you have heard about living abroad. And yeah, let's discuss, let's get to know what are myths, what is the truth, what is not, and stuff like that. So what have you heard about living abroad? I'd love to know. Comment down below and I will be sure to answer them. If you haven't subscribed, this is yet again another sign for you to do just that. Thank you for watching, and as usual, I will see you in my next one. Bye.